for all the slick talkers that aren't watching this episode, there's a tattoo of GMH on my arm, but for the video watchers, there you go. Little glimpse into the life, but yeah, it's on my body permanently for the rest of my life.
And how did you feel the next day waking up after 2 drinks with your GMH tattoo?
Well, I definitely had more drinks after the tattoo, but felt great because then Steve Davis and I basically had a day in New York to play around and go see all the sights. But yeah, felt great. I kind of felt, motivated even more. I was like, all right, if I got this on my body, I definitely can't quit. My mom's going to freak out. And yeah, it's just going to be signing tribute to GMH and all the hard work we put into that show. You're listening to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, a podcast for those who are in and around the hospitality industry who love, live, and breathe what they do. You can join us for candid and unscripted conversations with hospitality experts and founders as we go deeper into their personal stories while they're sharing their triumphs and trials that got them to where they are today. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and you're listening to an episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, let's begin. Welcome back to Slick Talk. How are we doing, Kelsey?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Oh, living the dream. Beautiful day here in Colorado. A high temperature of 72.
Oh
so
my
nice.
Gosh. It gets really cool fast there, I feel like.
It did. We got a nice cool breeze coming in at 1:00 today. I went to go get coffee. And because I ran out of my well and good morning coffee, but it was 66 at 1:00. I was like, holy crap, it was nice. I had to wear a hoodie. Felt good.
San Diego likes to do this thing where it gets hot in August and September, then fall happens and it gives you a little taste of the fall weather, and then it goes, psych, here's a heat wave. So we're in the heat wave right now, but then it kind of tapers off at the end of October. So hopefully we'll get cooler weather.
You will. You'll be rocking that pumpkin spice latte in no time. I promise.
Definitely.
Well, how have you been since last time we chatted? I know we try to do these one-on-one monthly episodes. I think we maybe have missed September. It's been a busy season for us. I think my message to the team on one of our team calls back in August was like, hey guys, September legit. Like, I think it was like the first week of August. I'm like, September's right around the corner. It's going to be crazy busy. We're going to need to step up our stuff. And the team has delivered. But man, it's gone by so quick. So quick.
Like, I was kind of nervous for September because I knew you were going to be out of town for majority of it. And then it's already October. So that's stressful too.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We missed September, but we're back. We're back in business.
Yeah. A lot of time on the road, conference season, production shoots, you name it. It's that time. But yeah, we had some fun while we're on the road. Some people may have seen on LinkedIn, had some fun with Steve Davis and Jeff from Host GPO and Sam Dundas from Bestie AI. We had some good times in New York. New York was a...
Do you care to expand on that, Will? Like, what kind of fun do you mean you had?
Oh, we were all work until Friday night. And then we're like, all right, let's go out. Let's get drinks. Let's hit happy hours. Where are all the spots? Me and Steve were trying to be local New Yorkers, not touristy New Yorkers. Mm-hmm. So we depended on our two tour guides. That's a mouthful. Sam and Jeff. And we were going throughout all the best places. And about 2 drinks in, we get to this bar. And there's a cover charge. And we're like, why are we paying a cover charge? It's like $15. And they're like, well, we have a tattoo artist that owns a tattoo shop at the first floor of this building. The cover basically goes to the tattoo artist. If you want to get a free tattoo, you can. Like, well, all these people that aren't getting free tattoos, this guy's just making money. So we're like, all right, whatever. Go get a drink. And looking at the tattoos, and Sam goes, someone should get a tattoo. Will, you got a couple tattoos. Why don't you do it? And I was like, oh, I'm open, but like if I get a tattoo, I don't want to just be like a, no offense, a cheap like little art piece that's already pre-designed.
Yeah.
Gotta do something unique and creative. So Jeff then turned to me and goes, how about you get Good Morning Hospitality tattooed on you, since it's been such a big part of your life? God. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Let's do it. So for the Slick Talk listeners, 2 drinks in. We're pretty much sober. And for all the Slick Talkers that aren't watching this episode, there's a tattoo of GMH on my arm. But for the video watchers, there you go. little glimpse into the life. But it's on my body permanently for the rest of my life.
And how did you feel the next day waking up after 2 drinks with your GMH tattoo?
Well, I definitely had more drinks after the tattoo, but felt great because then Steve Davis and I basically had a day in New York to play around and go see all the sights. But felt great. I kind of felt, motivated even more. I was like, all right, if I got this on my body, I definitely can't quit. My mom's going to freak out. And it's just going to be signing tribute to GMH and all the hard work we put into that show. So
wow,
worth it.
That's hardcore.
Yeah, it's a good story to tell too. Why not?
Good story. Yeah.
Grandpa, why do you have that tattoo?
Well, back in my day. Dude, that's going to be fun. So what did you think when I revealed it to you guys on the team meeting?
Well, I saw your Instagram and I knew you were getting a tattoo, but I didn't know what. And then like fleeting thought, maybe he's going to get something like HFM related. And then it actually was. And I was like, dang, like if anybody could do that, it'd be Will. So
yeah, had to do it. So next, you're next. Yeah, you're going to get it. You're going to get a big HFM tattoo just right here on the forehead.
Yeah, maybe I'll get some audio waves and you can scan it and it'll go right to our Hospitality FM page. You can listen to all the shows.
I'm a fan. I'm sold. I'll pay for it. Let's go.
Okay, sounds good. Oh my goodness.
All right, Slick Talkers, sorry to interrupt. As you know, great partners at Minute have sponsored this episode. They sponsor the show. So every episode is filled with amazing minutes. No pun intended. So if you don't know who Minute is or what they do, we see that we have a lot of new Slick Talkers out there in the world. So one, thank you for tuning into the show. Every listen, every time you hit play means so much to me and to my team. So thank you. But if you are new, Minute is an amazing noise detection device. Not only do they measure noise decibel levels inside of your vacation homes or your hotels, they actually can detect smoke. Not only that, if you're an outdoor kind of a unique stay person or just have an amazing outdoor amenities for your guests, from pools to hot tubs to cookout pads, all the stuff, they have an outdoor sensor that is specifically made for outdoor noise, because I didn't know this, but noise outside and noise inside actually makes a difference. So you don't have to worry about constantly making sure, are people partying at your place? Are the cleaners there? Or like whatever, kind of issue might happen, you can get that peace of mind with Minute at your side. So as you grow, Minute will grow with you. They have an amazing team of support, and they have an amazing technology from hardware and the software. When the two marry, it's just a beautiful combination. We use Minute in all of our vacation homes and hotels with our management company, and it's the best decision we've made because we are so dispersed and we are so spread out that having Minute just is a necessity for our operations. So get with Minute, go to the link in the show notes, let them know that Will from Slick Talk sent you. They'll give you a sweet deal. And of course, you know the drill. We're back to the episode, and I hope you enjoy. But yeah,
Crazy.
So speaking of events, though, for all the listeners, this episode is coming out the week before VRMA. So I think it's only natural to talk about VRMA. You're the one that designed our pop-up banners and all the stuff, but we're sharing a booth with Operto. So if you are listening to this episode, please stop by booth 219 to not only get great coffee from me or from the Operto team, but to also check out Operto's services and products. They're actually really good. We're a client and customer of Operto ourselves. And then also we'll have a podcast kind of station, and we're going to be taking appointment only. requests for recording. So if you have a show currently in or out of the hospitality.fm network, we're happy to, produce your episode, edit it, record it, give it to you, do whatever. But yeah, we'll be doing a lot of content at VRMA. And of course, the Good Morning Hospitality crew just announced today on our newsletter, we're doing a Well and Good Morning coffee hour on October 15th at 8:15 in the vendor hall at our booth. Networking and, of course, free coffee. We're giving away samples of our new coffee brand, Well and Good Morning Coffee. And we're going to try to do some kind of like micro panels, get some speakers and, get some of the Good Morning Hospitality and Slick Talk listeners all together and just have a fun morning for those who like to rise early and don't drink too much the first night. Yeah, this is an event for you. So just a FYI, you can go to, you can't go to anything, but if you subscribe to our newsletter, you'll get a link or you can message us if you hear this part. But we'll make sure you get actually, you know what? We're a podcast. We'll put the link in the show notes. If you're listening to this, grab the link in the show notes. Sign up. Hope to see you there.
That sounds like fun. Good, wholesome coffee hour.
I know. I'm so sad you won't be there in person this year.
I know. So many travel plans that I have in October, actually. And it was just, it'll be my first time traveling with a baby across country. And Alan will be there, my husband. So he was like, what's Will's phone number? Let me meet up with him one night. Because he's looking for a batch party.
That'd be sick. I've been dying to meet Alan because every time he does a cameo in our meetings or like anything like that, I'm like, Alan, just want to say hi.
Yeah, and he has no idea. He's in the background all the time.
Yeah. I love it. Well, for the Robin Cragans that are listening to this episode, that Robin's made comments say he's like, just wish you guys would get to the content sooner, right? It's these 7 minutes of pre-chatting. You gotta skip through it. Well, Robin, I hope you didn't skip. And we're going to get into some content today. Kelsey, what is on the docket? We have some cool stuff to talk about.
Yeah, so I know we're pre-recording this, but today, October 3rd, we launched a new HFM original called Sweet Success, Masters of Hospitality with Katie Klein. We've been working on this podcast for a few months now. A while.
August? July?
Even before then. Before then. And that's been really fun. She has a lot of amazing episodes recorded, and I'm just excited for everyone to listen. Katie is just so on top of it and has some good episodes, good content coming out. So I'm excited for everyone to listen.
100%. And for more context on Katie comes from the PR world, specifically on the hotel side. So she's worked with incredible brands like Ritz-Carlton and you name it. And this show concept, Sweet Success, it's not just another interview show. We really wanted to focus on more hotel content in the network. But the cool thing about Katie is that she owns 2 short-term rentals herself. Within the last year, she's actually purchased these and has applied a lot of the best practices from guests on this show, from other podcasts in the network like Natalie Palmer and Zach Boozy Cruz. And she just understands hospitality. And so I think this is really cool for us as a network to have a show that kind of rides that line of hotel and short-term rental, because we're very short-term rental heavy right now and we're trying to get more hotel stuff. But it's cool to see the hybrid approach. And I think this show is going to resonate pretty well with a lot of hospitality lovers out there that just are fans of good experience and quality products and service. So tune in,
definitely.
like and subscribe. Show notes,
Tune in,
link in the show notes.
Link in the show notes. We'll make sure to put that in there so you know exactly where to listen. Speaking of Katie Klein, I sat in on her interview with you. This episode hasn't gone out yet, but you were on her show, and kind of just to tease it a little bit, you gave background to your story of starting in hospitality and then to creating Hospitality FM. So I have some questions for you. And I think this would be good too, because you all have mentioned to going to conference season, seeing the faces of the people you listen to or the companies and brands that you work with in person is very inspiring, and you can network and all those things. So I think it'd be cool to learn a little bit more about you, Will Slickers, and you can answer some questions about Hospitality FM and Slick Talk. And if you're up for it.
I'm up for it. So listeners, she didn't tell me what we were going to
did
do.
not.
So this is all off the cuff. Here we go.
Okay. So you mentioned, when you started the podcast media company, Hospitality FM, it was in 2018? Correct. 2020.
Slick Talk was 2018. The network was
Slick Talk.
2021. Yeah.
Okay. Brave move to do after COVID. What is like one key lesson that you've learned since launching the podcast? And how do you think it's shaped who you are in the industry and just hospitality in the industry in general?
This podcast or the network?
The network, but also Slick Talk too.
Well, I think Slick Talk was trial. No, of running a bigger network. It's changed my life completely. So
Yeah.
I didn't think podcasting would become something that I do. It's just never, I hated the sound of my own voice. I didn't feel the most confident on speaking or being able to articulate thoughts and points and all the other stuff. But it's become such a great outlet, and it's such a one-way road, like one-way street with podcasting. Like I'm talking, the listeners are listening, and they're not able to talk back. And so sometimes you feel like you're talking to a void, but then, like you said, the amount of people that come up to you at a conference, or even Kelsey, like I've told you some crazy stories, but there's been some stories of I'm flying to Florida and someone on the plane has like an Aimbridge hospitality logo on their shirt, and they recognize me and they're like, "Hey, I listened to the Slick Talk or one of your shows or whatever." And you're just like, "Oh, whoa." And like my dad even got to experience it when we were in an airport. He was like, "Who's that person you're talking to? I heard them talk about like Slick Talk and whatnot." And I was like, "Yeah, like they're a listener of the show." And they just, we bumped into each other. So it's really, really cool. I would think like the network for me, it's just become such a way to, I find my natural ability and skill set to rely on like being a connector, and was able to do that a lot with obviously this show, but to then sit down with other people who have like a vision of their podcast and how they want their brand to grow. I always love using Natalie Palmer as a really good example, because she went from no vacancy to now launching Level Up Your Listing, and they've built a whole business around this. And her hosts like a mother course, and it's just become such an ecosystem where it's solely relied on this community of people that love hospitality, that love short-term rentals, that love hotels. And to have a core connector like that, and then have a medium like podcasting and YouTube and LinkedIn and Instagram and all these social media platforms that we get to build a brand on, it's just, I don't know how to describe it, in the sense of it's just so cool. Like I don't know how to explain it to my folks, even, where it's just like,
it's hard.
Yeah, like I'm talking for a living, yet we're a media company. And so we have like very fast turnarounds on content and newsletters. And it just, there's so many moving pieces that like every detail matters. And so I think just it's taught me a lot on attention to detail, honing in on the skill of, being a connector and just trying to help others. And then in return, it helps you as well. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, definitely. You mentioned on brand building, and I know you went from Slick Talk to podcast to HFM. One, when do you sleep? I know we talk about that before, like you don't, but how do you manage like being an entrepreneur, a podcaster, and like also a good face in hospitality?
Great team. I like, that's my always perfect answer, because it is true. You and Michael and Joanne like do so much. If like people could see how many shows each one of you edits and produce and works with, and the 40 plus teams that we work with across, short-term rentals and hotels and even food and beverage, from Europe to America to Mexico to Canada, like it is such a blessing to have such a core team that really truly cares, and like you guys are like ride or dies, right? Like we have barely any turnover in the company. And so that's been a huge thing, where I'm able to now focus on certain areas where we need to grow. Like we need to grow in hotels. We need to grow our advertising partnerships, and we need to grow our production, onboarding processes. And like you've been obviously working on that project. So just having the freedom to be able to point on like where can we get better as a company, and how can now like this remainder of the year and 2025 is going to be so focused on making Hospitality FM a brand instead of just our shows, right? Like we've been so focused on all of our podcasts, getting them set up and structured and growing and strategically like placed on whatever, right? Like there's so many things that we've been doing for others. So now it's like, this is our time. We need to become a dominant force. We need people to come to hospitality.fm as a player, as a platform, not, oh, yeah, I've heard of a show that you guys do and didn't know you guys were a part of it. Like we want to avoid that. So I do sleep. I have methods of getting to sleep, but I have a very hard time shutting off. And so I think it's been really cool too this year to really get more established in Colorado. I think I've just had such a sense of home and belonging here that I think that's helped allow me to take some personal time off, and had some personal stuff this year with my mom and getting to go see her, and like putting the business aside and knowing that you and Michael and Joanne and everybody was going to be taken care of. And so I think this year has been more of a balanced year than not. Mm-hmm. But I would say going from creator to business owner or entrepreneur is the hardest hat switch for me, to like focus on Slick Talk, focus on GMH, and then go look at the vast range of shows that are constantly, wanting us to help with strategy, to help with production, to help with this. And it's a harder switch, I think.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get like less confident, if that makes sense. Like I get nervous to come back on the show after a month of not recording because we're so ahead of schedule or whatever. I don't know. Does that kind of give you? I'm hoping I'm answering, but yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a lot of hats you wear. So I didn't even think about like switching it on and off, because I guess in my mind you do so very eloquently. So I don't even like think about how you have to, reshape what you're working on. But there's somebody in my life, and she has her own podcast, and she recently got signed to a network. It's not in hospitality. Otherwise I'd been like, why aren't you working with us? But she recently got signed to a network, and she's like, how many people are on your team? And I go, there's like 3 editors and one guy has like 20 shows. And she's like, I don't know how you guys are doing that. And I go, yeah, I don't know how he does it either, on top of another full-time job. I'm surprised we haven't gone on a worker strike yet, but I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. No, it's really fun. And we all balance, everything we have going on. So yeah, kudos to our team. They're great.
Well, yeah, you came back from maternity leave and I was like, hey, you're promoted and here's all your stuff back and more, because I created a whole new job title for you. There you go. Like, it's just, I think we have high performers. Now I think it's just, how do we, I want you guys more bought in the mission, right? Like, we've all been doing our work. We're all established roles. Now I've been like, I'm dying to get you, me and Michael and Joanne like together in person. Like, hey, let's map out what the next year is going to look like for us. What do we want to focus on? How do we want our culture to shift into, whatever, like, what do you guys want to see out of the business? Cause I want you guys, I'm giving equity, right? Like I want you guys to not only have equity, but ownership of like the actual growth. So for anyone listening, I would love any feedback and tips on how you guys do this, because this is the first time we have ever gotten to this point with the business. So I don't know. I'm just kind of shooting my shots in the dark here, but yeah, I'm excited for this next phase for real, in the sense of providing more for the team. I think we have A players across the board. So how do we continue to have A players? So that's the next question, next problem to solve.
There's so many goals and dreams that we always talk about. So I'm excited to see the growth for sure.
Yeah, it's been a lot, but it'll be good.
Yeah.
It'll be good.
Okay. Kind of switching gears here too. I know we don't focus on like episodes and things like that, but when I was editing the Christian Lee episode, there was one part that really stood out to me, and it was like the talk about COVID and the way that you phrase the question just like really brought me back to the time during COVID. And I remember working in office and having to go home and pack up my desk that day. And just kind of like the feeling that I had in that time is just like, it's crazy. And it is like a moment in history that you'll never forget because of, everything going on and work and things like that. So I guess my question for you, and you can talk on that episode too, but what's like a favorite moment from a guest from Slick Talk that you've had that stands out to you, and why?
Okay. It's a really
Because
good
that was a
question.
really memorable thing for me to remember, like as an editor, I listened to like so many different shows, but I was just like, wow, like reflecting on my time. And it just really took me back to that period.
Yeah. And it's going to be crazy as your son Maverick is older. You're going to be able to tell him that you lived that, like in the history books. You're going to like, you're studying COVID in history. Guess what? I lived through that time. Like, that's just crazy to think about. But I would say like my favorite moments, I have to come back to a couple. Actually, every time I record with Andrew Kitchell, I think I don't know why those episodes have gotten the most listener response from my side. And Andrew's mentioned to me when we were just in New York at the Skift Global Summit or the Global Forum. He goes, dude, I still get messages from our first episode, and then people like, here are the 3 or 4 that we've done since, and I get so many responses on, and Andrew's made a couple comments like, you have some super fans, that's for sure. So thank you to our super fans. But I feel so engaged with Andrew in conversation that I walk away from a recording every time and just be like, all right, like I can't shake that conversation. And he's changed my mind on a lot of things recently with our tech landscape episode, going into the different categories of technology in our space of just short-term rentals, right? And Andrew has this very ambitious vision and goal, or not goal, but very ambitious potential outcome of how our industry could play in the overall hospitality sector. And he thinks like short-term rentals is going to absolutely just crush hotels and lodging in general. Like he thinks short-term rentals is going to be a huge player, bigger than it is now. And we've seen, yes, it's taken share from hotels, but again, it always comes down to use case of when you're booking or what you're booking for, a business trip, a personal trip, etc. And I may not have the same view as him, but he definitely challenges my view. And I love when I get my view challenged, because I think, as Gary Vee has said many times, it's okay to change your mind. It's actually a sign of strength that you can change your mind, and it's or not even strength, but a sign of intelligence when you can have your mind change or change your mind because of new information. And for me, I was like completely anti digital guidebooks. I think there's too many digital guidebooks in our industry now. Shout out to our partners at Hostfully. I know they have digital guidebooks and they're great. We still use them at Recreation Rentals, but I do think there's too many companies that are trying to do this guidebook business. And I just don't see, or I didn't see kind of like why, like, haven't we done this enough? Like, it's not exciting. It's not new. It's just a guidebook. That's kind of my thought. Right.
Yeah.
And Andrew kind of shaped it up as, no, it's your entry point in order to get more share of wallet with your guests. And then I go back to conversations with Richard Valter from Muse and how we want to own more than just the 8 hours of sleep that our guests are having in our home, but own mind share of them when they're at home, when they are a month or 2 after their vacation and they're not in your property anymore. And, these conversations all have such a weird spider web connection. And yeah, I constantly think about these conversations. And I think those are some of my favorite moments when I feel challenged, where my mind is able to be changed. And yeah, and of course, like the listeners that reach out and engage, like show their love for it too. That's where I get really excited. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. I know I'm going to say that every time you ask me a question. I'm like, hopefully I give you a right answer, but I feel like I ramble, and my speaking coach and I are working on my confidence of not being worried about rambling and okay with just like going on a passionate tangent. That's what we're calling it.
Yeah, no, that was a passionate tangent. You definitely answered the question. Giving me bait. Yeah. No, yeah, I love that. I always think about just, the conversations you have with people, and then do you ever do this where, okay, this is a tangent for sure, where you're like practicing a conversation like in the shower, in the car, and then you catch yourself so animated and you're like, if anybody's watching me, like they probably think I'm crazy because I'm definitely like just talking to myself.
Yeah. 100%.
Full on.
100%. My niece is in town, and at the time of this recording, and I was like working in the living room, and I was on Slack, and I was like legit thinking about a response to you or Michael, and I was talking out loud, and she's like, "Who are you talking to?" And I was like, "No one." It was just working. Just don't mind me. And I was like, "Oh, I do talk to myself, so that's cool."
That's
hoping.
so funny.
All right, I'm back. Sorry to interrupt, but you have to hear about our partners and friends at Hostfully. Not only are they an amazing property management software, they're an amazing team. I've been friends and partners with Hostfully for over 4 years now, and it's been an amazing 4 years. I can't complain because as I continue to grow my business with our property management company, they continue to update and grow their products and features within the Hostfully platform, and it just gets better over time. So with us, we have a unified inbox, we have amazing marketplace, not only for the rest of our tech stack to integrate, which is awesome because they work with so many people, but then the third piece is the distribution is built in. So you don't have to fully rely on a channel manager. You can actually rely on the amazing integrations that Hostfully has with Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, Marriott, Homes and Villas, you name it. They have what you need in order to get your inventory, your properties to the right people. So it's kind of a no-brainer, but I'm going to tell you this anyways. You're going to get a special deal with Hostfully with the link in the show notes. You'll just have to let them know if you love the product and then just tell them that we'll send you. So that way you can get that amazing Slick Talk deal. And of course, we're back to the episode. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. Do you talk to yourself a lot in public, like in cars?
Oh yeah, in cars, I'm like having like an attitude conversation with myself. Like I'm going off on somebody, and I'm like, oh, I wish I was petty. Like I would say this, and I'm like so animated. But no, I would never do that in real life. Yeah. But just in the car. Okay, I do have a couple more questions for you. Just a couple more. This one's just a fun one. 2 fun ones actually. If you could interview anyone in the world, hospitality related or not, who would it be and why?
All right. So one of my dream guests, like I legit have it written down in my notebook, is Dara, who is the CEO of Uber. He was previously the CEO of Expedia, 2 CEOs ago. So Peter Kern just left. We have a new CEO in. But what Dara has done with Uber from a company perspective, if you know the story of the founder, Travis, kind of crazy in the sense of not the best culture environment creator, but brilliant mind, created Uber obviously and got it to a really big point. But Dara has made it grow up and profitable. I may not like the quality of service now from drivers. I think maybe that's gone down a little bit. But at the end of the day, from a business standpoint, I'm a big fan, and I've listened to a lot of his other stuff on podcasts outside of our space, and it's just so inspiring. And just he's so smart, and a great guest. I think would be phenomenal. Yes, and I know that's in the industry, so sorry to give a lame answer. But if I were to have anyone outside of the industry, can you guess who I would have?
Alex Cooper.
Actually, it should be fun, but I don't know if we could. I'd be like super uncomfortable. Like, so what are we talking about?
Okay, someone from F1.
Oh, that's hard. CEO of McLaren, Zach Brown, would be sick. Or for those that are watching the video, Lando Norris, who is my favorite driver. I have a signed piece of his car from 2021 and a picture on my wall, signed and authenticated. So I'm a new collector of collectibles, I guess. I don't know. That makes sense. But
I love it.
Yeah, Lando Norris for sure. Number 1.
That sounds fun. I was thinking about Uber. It's just crazy to think about when I went to school, there was no Uber or Lyft, and there were no White Claws or Trulies. And I had to suffer. Okay. That is not safe.
Were you drinking Natty Lights?
I wasn't drinking Natty Lights. I was drinking, even worse, Bud Light.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oof.
And Jungle Juice, but
Jungle Juice. Yeah, Tech 9. We won't talk about that. But anyways, we're back to our normal programming.
Swoosh sound. Okay. Okay, my last question for you which
Yeah.
is the last question that you ask a lot of your guests, and it catches them by surprise. So, surprise. What's something that most people don't know about you that might surprise them?
I don't know if I've said this on the show. I think I have, maybe, but maybe not. A lot of people have heard it. I'm half deaf. So I think that always catches people off by surprise. Like, I'm deaf in one ear, my left ear. So it was a training accident in the military. Shattered my eardrum and never got it back. So I'm a half deaf podcasting guy, I guess. Podcaster, half deaf podcaster.
How does that affect your daily life? Like, what are some things that you've had to like adapt to since that happened?
Oh, I can't hear shit. Just kidding. But no, group, like big, like sporting events or just being in public with a lot of people, sound only is traveling into one ear. So if you're on my left side, I legit don't hear you. My niece, like, is a great example. She speaks very softly and I can't hear her at all. Even like in a room, like, I'm just like, what are you saying? So I have to read lips a lot. And I've noticed people, like, if I go on a date, right, the girl will notice I'm like looking at her lips a lot and not like actually making eye contact. And I've had like I remember one date I was on, we didn't go on many others after this, but she was like, are you even paying attention? And I was like, yeah. Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you're not even looking at me. Like, am I not making eye contact? And I was like, I'm like reading your lips. And she's like, why? I'm like, I'm half deaf. I can't hear anything in this bar. And she was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I can't hear you at all. I'm just trying to guess what you're saying and piecing it together. And it worked.
Oh my God.
But, yeah. Well, it was,
did she feel bad? She should.
She did. And then I was like, it's okay. I don't want to lead the conversation with like, hey, by the way, can you speak up? Because I can't hear anything. I don't want to give old man vibes off right out the gate.
I was going to say, you can do what my dad does and he cups his ear like every time. And I'm just like, Dad.
I try not to do the cup, but I do the lean. I do the shift and lean and I go in like this. Yeah. My friends all make fun of me. They're like, oh, did you not hear me? I saw the lean. Did you not hear it? I was like, oh,
well, I feel like you definitely don't like talk any louder, like that you can't hear. Like, can you hear your own voice pretty well?
Nah, like, yes, it sounds muffled. You know, like when you go in the shower and you plug your ears? That's kind of what it sounds like.
Oh, man.
So, yeah.
Dang.
I don't know. But then like when I have AirPods in, I feel like I'm yelling, right? Like I could feel in my voice, like I feel like I'm yelling, but I don't know if I actually am. So I'm just guessing that I'm just speaking at a normal volume. Yeah.
I feel like you speak at a normal volume.
Well, good.
I mean, I've only met you once, so.
Yeah, in person.
In person
Gosh,
once,
that was so long ago. Oh,
it really was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's one thing. I've talked about my brother, seven child of seven. I'm very much into F1. So if Slick Talkers didn't know that, talk to me about F1. I would love to geek out. Please give me something outside of hospitality to talk about. Legit. Actually, that's one thing. I'll say this. My little tangent. I love our industry. I love podcasting, but damn, do I need a break from the conversations about it. So, like, think about it. This is all we do for a living. We hear these conversations. We have these conversations from Slick Talk and Good Morning Hospitality and Sweet Success and Workflows and Espressos. I would love to talk about something I don't ever talk about. So please, let's find a way to connect.
That's really interesting because when I used to have my podcast, it was a very brief season of a podcast, but I interviewed my friend who's a tattoo artist here in San Diego. And I asked like all of our guests, like, what's the number one biggest pet peeve that you have like within your business? And he said he hates having conversations about tattoos. And it's hard because even when Alan goes out, he's tatted all over the place and he gets stopped all the time. And I was like, that's your fault. Like, you're tatted everywhere. Obviously people are going to be curious about it. I'm not saying that's his fault, but he's tatted like on his head and neck, my friend.
I've never seen his head. Oh,
my friend is.
I was like,
not yet.
He doesn't have head tattoos. I was maybe
not yet.
I just haven't noticed. Yeah,
but he's like, I just hate talking about tattoos all the time. Like, that's not all I am. And I was like, that's so true. Like, that has to be so annoying.
Yeah. But for the longest time, I never had anything outside of work. So that's all I would talk about. But now I have stuff outside of work. And so I think it does help. But I'm curious, like, what do you feel the same way when people find out you're a podcast producer and partner manager and all this other stuff? Or like, Do you ever have, I don't know, any of that moment?
No, but it's so hard to explain what I do, I feel like, because they're like, oh, cool, podcast producer. And I'm like, yeah, so I work for a network. And they're like, oh, which one? And then
Mhm.
I like, not everybody calls it short-term rentals. They just generalize it as Airbnb. So I'm just like,
Yeah.
it's about this kind of stuff. And they're like, oh, cool, cool, cool. But it's kind of like, podcast producer sounds cool, but what do you do? And then like I go down this list and I feel like I'm losing them. So I'm just like, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, we need to find like the elevator pitch of a network where it's
Yeah.
like 30 seconds or less. We explain it, people get it, and it opens up the door maybe for more conversation, or it just makes so much sense that everyone's like, "Cool, thanks for explaining." And you're like, "All right." Yeah, still trying to figure that one out. Once my parents get it, I'll feel like we've locked it in. I'm like,
There
okay,
you go.
they're the true sign of did we explain this right?
Yeah, my parents always ask me, what is it again that you do? So I'm like, just tell them I'm a podcast producer and they can like look it up. Like that's basically what it is.
If they're really curious, they can Google it.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, well, besides VRMA, any fun plans that you have coming up?
Well, Megan Moylan is getting married in Puerto Rico in November. So I have the honors of being an attendee there. So excited for that. After VRMA, I'm hopefully going to the F1 race in Vegas. I bought my ticket, but hotels are pretty damn expensive. Not gonna lie. So if anyone wants to sponsor the show, help your boy go out to Vegas. Or if you're a hotel, Vegas, or a hotel brand in Vegas, there we go. Would love to collab. Do some free content, do some interviews. Right off the trip as a business trip.
Something. Come on.
Something. But yeah, I think that's about it. And then just kind of putting our head down for the rest of the year until we go big in 2025. I think we're gonna just start preparing for a lot of growth. We hired a new marketing lady. That's probably not the best term. We hired a new head of marketing who's going to take over SEO on the website and the network newsletter, not the GMH one that you do, and more. But she and I are working on some cool changes. So excited for us to grow up in that field of the business.
Yes. 2025. Yes. Here we come.
Here we come. Yes, I'm very excited. But how about you? Anything exciting? I wish you were going to VRMA, but obviously that one's a wash.
I know. Next week, I am going to Virginia Beach, Virginia. My cousin is getting married. My whole mom's side of the family, we're all staying in one Airbnb. It can house all, 15, 16 of us. So that'll be really fun.
Let us know how the experience. Did you book it? Or?
My aunt booked it. It's very beautiful. And actually, now that I'm a mother, Katie Klein mentioned this in her podcast. Natalie's mentioned it in hers, that they have a pack and play in their property. And so I was like, I made sure to ask, like, do they have a pack and play? I'm also curious if there are blackout curtains and is there a high chair? Because these are things I have to think about now. No high chair or blackout curtains, but they do have a pack and play. So
all right.
I was like, interesting. Maybe you should listen to Hospitality of M and get some tips.
Yeah, specifically these shows. Here you go.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting. I always love getting, especially like from your perspective, right? Like you came in not as a host, but now you're editing and producing and working with a lot of these creators, hearing a lot of the conversations and the content from this show and many others. And so I feel like you should be like, you're an expert now. You've heard enough that you're in the industry without doing it. I'm always curious, like, all right, when you book this like Airbnb property, how was the process? Did you notice things? Like, I would love to hear your full experience when you guys get back. So let me know what you pick up on, what you didn't pick up on.
I know. Now I feel like I go in with a different perspective, like, interesting. Okay. Or, oh, they're doing good. Okay. So we'll see how it is.
When I was a hotelier or a hotel manager, I could never go to a hotel without immediately the moment we pulled up judging and start like critiquing stuff.
Yeah.
Do you do that now with short-term rentals or anything like food and beverage, like restaurants?
Yeah, from the listing, I'm like, that's what they chose as their cover photo. Okay, these pictures don't have any description. Like, I need to know what this is. I'm confused with the layout. Yeah, I definitely look at all those things. I'm like, oh, Mom, don't look at that. Like, you should look at like the reviews. It doesn't matter if they're not 5-star, like, what are people saying? Yeah, I definitely look at like the listings in that aspect. And my mom always sends me listings like, do you approve of this? Like, does this look okay? And I'm like, yeah, they look fine. We're okay to book.
You become the friends and family expert. Everyone's like,
Yeah.
is this okay? Can we book this? Do you approve?
Yeah,
It's so
literally.
funny. Yeah, no, it's a blessing and a curse, as everyone knows in our industry. You can never look at a property without somewhat critiquing it.
Yeah.
It's fun stuff. Fun stuff. Well, this is fun. Thanks for the impromptu surprise questions.
Yeah, flip the switch.
Maybe next month we pull out some listener questions from the DMs and the emails to make it. I feel like I talked way too much, but that's because I'm working on that confidence with my speaking coach and all that. But long story short, this was fun, and I love our monthlies. I hope the Slick Talk listeners love it, because come on, you're just fun. We're a fun group to hang out with.
We're a fun group. So come hang out with us. Ask us some questions. Maybe your question will be featured on the next monthly recap. Catch all the things, Sweet Success, Good Morning Coffee in the show notes. And yeah, this was my annual review. So if you guys can provide feedback, please let us know. And 2025, gonna hit the ground running.
Yes. And we'll have more also kind of last. If you made it this far in the episode, which according to the statistics of the show, about 85% of you have made it to this point. So good job. We are going to announce our next Good Morning Retreat location and dates, hopefully before the end of November. So by the time we do the next recap video like this or episode, hopefully I'll have some dates and some details. But if you haven't heard about our retreats, I'm going to link the recap video in the show notes as well. So that way you guys can see what we did in Auburn, Alabama in July with amazing experts around the globe as well. So stay tuned.
Sounds
all right,
exciting.
Kelsey.
All right, Will.
It's been fun. Or no, what my friends always say, it's been real, it's been fun, but it hasn't been real fun. And then they leave and I'm like, what? I would be heartbroken.
Oh my gosh.
I won't do that to you. It's been real and it's been fun. And it's been really fun. So
yes, there you go. Been real fun. See you next month.
All right, Slick Talkers, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. And until then, we'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to our show partners for making Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, possible. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. So you can follow us on all of our social media channels for daily hospitality content, or find us on slicktalkthepodcast.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and we will see you guys all again next week.